Good afternoon. It's afternoon already. Hi. How are you today? Hope you're having a good day. And I hope you're finding some fun things to do today. I have been working and I have a conference call in a few minutes. So I'm going to do some more work. But right now, I thought I would read you a story for today. I think this is a long one, but we'll see. This story is really old. And I think I might be missing some of the back. We'll see. We'll figure it out. It's called The Caboose Who Got Loose. The Caboose Who Got Loose. There's no picture on the cover because the cover is missing. But here is a nice picture of a train. Do you know what a caboose is? A caboose is the very last car on the train. Let's see if I can get a little bit more better situated. When Katie Caboose rambled down the train tracks, the engines were steamers with puffing smokestacks. She was a caboose who disliked being last, with an endless black cloud of smoke rolling past. It's not only too smoky, the caboose would complain. There's the jerks and the jolts of this noisy freight train. There's Katie Caboose. And like I said, the caboose is the very last car on the train. The engine up front always wore a big smile as he lumbered along for mile after mile. He was proud of his being so powerful and strong that he could haul a freight train 100 cars long. So on he went, chugging no worry or care, leaving Katie Caboose in the dark clouds of despair. You see where she's saying it's a smile right there? And so all the way back where she is, that's where all the smoke is going. Katie had little hope she would ever get loose or be anything but a caboose. I can wish, sighed poor Katie. What else can I do? If you wish hard enough, then your wish might come true. Often Katie would wish that she someday could be something quiet and simple, like a lovely elm tree, or a ramshackle barn all alone on a hill where the noisiest thing was a squeaky windmill. It might become lonely, she thought, way out there, but at least there's a view with a lot of fresh air. There she is, wishing. I'm sitting a different way today, so it's harder to show you the pages. I'll remember that for tomorrow. Whenever she passed through a small country town, Katie wished she could stop and just settle down and be one of the houses who sat in a row on a tree-shaded street and have no place to go. It's so restful, thought Katie, where one can relax, as she hurried and scurried on down the train tracks. And there's the houses all in a row. What she wished most to be, much more than the rest, was a cabin she'd seen on her trips through the West. A little log shack, half covered with vines, perched on a slope in a forest of pines. How perfect, thought Katie as she hurried on by it, to live there in the trees where it's so peaceful and quiet. But all the caboose could look forward to was a deep, rocky canyon the train traveled through. And there's the cottage that she wants to be, even though she's a train. Where huge boulders leaned way over the tracks in towering, top-heavy, gigantic stacks. What is holding them up? Frightened Katie would wonder as the earth-shaking train went rumbling right under. If one should come loose and fall down upon her, it would squash Katie flat, and she'd be a goner. If she didn't get squashed, there was more to be dreaded up the winding, steep grades where the engine was headed. See the rocks there? She's worried about them falling down on top of her. I'd be worried about that too. High up in the mountains were terrible ledges where the track ran along only feet from the edges. Oh my. The view was breathtaking, but after one look, it was so upsetting she shivered and shook. If she slipped off the track, then down she would go to be smashed into bits on the rocks far below. There she is again on the edge. Remind me to tell you about the time that Uncle Andrew and I rode a mule down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Well, it's kind of like that. Then poor Katy received even more of a fright from a smoke-blackened tunnel as dark as the night, and she crept through the tunnel with a horrible thought that far back in the darkness she'd suddenly be caught by caboose-eating monsters who lurked all about. They would gobble her up before she got out. She's very worried, isn't she? Her trips always ended near a city somewhere, way out in a freight yard with smoke clouding the air, where a turmoil of trains made a great noisy rumble on crisscrossing tracks, an impossible jumble. The train came to a stop, and the cars were unhitched. Then off to a side track the caboose was soon switched, where Katy could sit and take in the fine scenery, with such lovely sights as a load of machinery. Coal cars and flat cars, lumber stacked on their backs, squealing carloads of pigs with snouts poking through cracks, they always left Katy in the midst of it all, while the engine received a complete overhaul. The huge engine at last had run down from the strain. From the 10,000 miles he had hauled the long train. Back in the roundhouse, men swarmed all about to check over and under him, inside and out. Replacing old pistons and bolts that were missing, patching leaks in the boiler that made a loud hissing, cleaning rust from his piping that ran everywhere, checking steam valves and pumps in great need of repair. I think this book's going to need some tape when I'm done. What do you think? As Katy sat there through one long, dreary night, staring up through the smoke at a red signal light, a small house appeared in the sky like a ghost, a shack of the switchman, perched high on a post. "I'd like to be you," said the shack very sadly. "If I could trade places, I would very gladly. A caboose is what I've always wanted to be, for you have the best life, from what I can see." So there is the shack that's talking way up here, and there is Katy. So the shack wants to be Katy. Before Katy could think of some way to reply, all at once a long freight train came thundering by. The next thing she knew, she was jerked and then jolted, then hitched to the train with her coupler bolted. As the train left the freight yard, poor Katy looked back to catch a last glimpse of the sad little shack. Sorry, the pictures aren't turning out as well today. "From now on," Katy promised, "I shall never complain. I'll be a happy caboose at the end of a train and put up with the jolts, the train noise, and the rest, all the smoke that rolls by, or at least try my best." With her new point of view, she enjoyed the long ride. It was fun on a trip through the broad countryside. There she is. But when the train crept up a steep mountain grade, then poor Katy found she was still as afraid. And once more she began to shiver and shake at the thought of the frightening curve she must take. Her unsteady wheels could cause her to slip, which would suddenly put a quick end to the trip. Ooh. It was a hot afternoon, so the going was rough, and the engine up front was in a puffing big huff. He groaned, "What a day to chug up such a grade on a bare mountainside without one bit of shade." When he came steaming over the very last hump, he lunged with a fury that made the cars jump. all the way back to Katie, who got such a jolt that it snapped off a rusty old coupling bolt. There's the beginning of the train, all the way back to Katie. All the way back. So he jerked the train, and then what happened? She was free of the train. At last she was loose, and away down the track went Katie Caboose. On down the grade she flew faster and faster, straight for a curve and certain disaster. Oh no, what's going to happen? She's going all the way down that track. Oh no. When Katie hit the curve, she took off like a kite, high over treetops on her first and last flight. That would quickly have ended poor Katie Caboose if it hadn't been for two towering spruce. Do you know what a spruce is? A spruce is like a kind of tree that can be used for a Christmas tree. So they're always green. So that's the track where she came off of, and she went flying up into the air. The caboose became caught in a very tight squeeze between the tall trunks of two evergreen trees. At first, she could hardly believe her good luck. What a wonderful place it was to be stuck. She thought sure she was dreaming. It couldn't be true. Here she was in the trees with a beautiful view. It's so perfect, sighed Katie. Yet I'm really not free. I know sooner or later they'll come looking for me. And then, sure enough, up the mountains that night came a train with a crane and a powerful light. She could have gone leaping off here, came a shout, like a great glaring eye. Then the light searched about. It flashed past the trees, down the steep rocky bluff, and it searched high and low. But not quite high enough. So that's it looking. And that's where Katie is. So see, the light didn't go quite so high. Or it wouldn't have soon spotted the missing caboose. But all they could find was a startled bull moose. Let's all call it quits, growled the boss of the crew. For all I know, she could be in Kalamazoo. Now, I think there is some more to this story about how happy she was and how she lived happily ever after. But as you can tell, this book is not in very good shape, and I believe that maybe a couple of the pages have gotten lost. But you still get the idea, right? Katie got what she wanted. She got to be free. She got to live where it was quiet. She didn't have the smoke coming at her anymore, and she wasn't at the end of the train anymore. So I guess that's a good story of a dream come true. It's a long one, so I'm going to say bye. Love you very much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.